Imagine waking up one morning to discover that a superpower is openly discussing the purchase of land that does not belong to it. Not as satire, not as diplomacy, but as strategy. No invasion, no war. Just the quiet suggestion that borders, alliances, and sovereignty might be negotiable if the price is right. This is not a hypothetical scenario. This is the story of Greenland. Such facts are never discussed openly or on any news channel. To find the true facts about any such event, subscribe to Let's Check the Facts and hit the bell icon so you never miss any update about the global politics and wars that shape your life in some way. For decades, Greenland barely appeared in global headlines. A vast, frozen landmass at the edge of the world. Sparsely populated, politically quiet, easy to overlook. And then, suddenly, the President of the United States began talking about it. Openly, repeatedly, and without hesitation. In 2019, Donald Trump shocked the world by suggesting that the United States should buy Greenland. Not lease it, not expand cooperation. Buy it. Reports later revealed that the idea was discussed seriously inside the White House, examined by advisors, and even explored legally. Denmark dismissed the proposal as absurd. Greenland's leadership responded clearly. Greenland was not for sale. Trump reacted by canceling a planned state visit to Denmark. The episode was widely mocked, reduced to late-night jokes, and then slowly faded from public conversation. Or so it seemed, because Trump never let it go. In later interviews, he returned to the idea, this time without humor. He described Greenland as critical to American national security. He framed it as something the United States needed. By then, the language had changed. What once sounded like a real estate impulse began to resemble strategic doctrine. To understand why Trump fixated on Greenland, you have to look beyond politics and into geography. Greenland sits between North America and Europe, deep inside the Arctic. During the Cold War, it served as a front line for early missile detection. That role never disappeared. It simply faded from public attention. Today, the United States already operates advanced radar and surveillance systems there, quietly monitoring threats that move across the polar region. At the same time, the Arctic itself is transforming. Ice is melting. Sea routes that were once impassable are opening. These passages dramatically shorten shipping distances between Asia, Europe, and North America. What was once remote is becoming central. What was once frozen is becoming contested. But shipping is only one layer of the story. Beneath Greenland's ice lie vast reserves of rare earth minerals, materials essential for smartphones, electric vehicles, renewable energy systems, and advanced military hardware. Right now, China dominates global rare earth supply chains. For Washington, that dependence is a strategic vulnerability. Greenland represents an alternative, one that could reduce reliance on Beijing while securing long-term access to materials that will define future power. China understands this very well. In recent years, Beijing has described itself as a near-Arctic power. It has invested heavily in polar research, shipping ambitions, and infrastructure projects across the Arctic region. Chinese companies have shown interest in Greenland's airports, ports, and mining operations. From Washington's perspective, this is not simple investment. It is positioning. Russia, meanwhile, has moved even faster. Moscow has reopened Cold War-era Arctic bases, expanded military patrols, and deployed new missile systems in the north. The Arctic is no longer geopolitically frozen. It is heating up. Trump viewed this competition through a simple lens. Agreements could change. Partnerships could collapse. Influence could shift. Ownership, however, meant permanence. That is why Greenland kept returning to his rhetoric, not as a partner, but as a strategic anchor. Inside Greenland itself, the situation is more complicated. Greenland governs its own domestic affairs, but remains formally tied to Denmark. Its economy relies heavily on subsidies, fishing, and limited industry. Many Greenlanders want greater autonomy and economic opportunity. Foreign investment is tempting. At the same time, there is deep concern about becoming dependent on any single external power, whether American or Chinese. Greenland's leadership made its position clear. Cooperation was welcome. Investment was welcome. But sovereignty was not negotiable. They did not want to be pulled into a global struggle they did not choose. Europe saw something else entirely. Denmark rejected Trump's suggestion outright, but the unease quickly spread across the continent. European governments were less alarmed by the proposal itself than by what it represented. If the United States could openly discuss acquiring territory from a NATO ally, what precedent did that set? Europe has lived through the consequences of territorial normalization before. From Crimea to Ukraine, from the Balkans to frozen border conflicts, Europeans know how quickly arguments over land escalate once they enter accepted political language. Southern European states quietly worried about islands and maritime claims. Eastern European countries watched closely, sensitive to justifications used by larger powers. Smaller nations feared becoming bargaining chips in a renewed era of great power competition. Within NATO, discomfort grew. Greenland is Danish territory. Denmark is a NATO ally. Yet Trump spoke as though alliance structures were secondary to American interest. For Europe, which relies on collective security rather than unilateral leverage, this was deeply unsettling. For the United States, however, the stakes were impossible to ignore. If Washington succeeds in securing long-term dominance over Greenland through expanded military presence, economic leverage, or exclusive agreements, the rewards are substantial. America strengthens its northern defense perimeter. Missile detection and Arctic surveillance improve. Dependence on Chinese supply chains weakens. And U.S. influence is anchored in a region set to define future trade and security. In that scenario, Greenland becomes more than territory. It becomes insurance. But failure carries consequences. If pressure hardens European resistance and alienates Greenland itself, the result could be the opposite. China and Russia gain diplomatic and economic space. Trust inside NATO erodes. And America risks legitimizing the very behavior it condemns elsewhere. The idea that power creates entitlement. Greenland, then, is a high-reward, high-risk calculation. Success reinforces American dominance in the Arctic. Failure accelerates a world where power is contested everywhere. And that is why this issue refuses to disappear. Greenland may look like a frozen expanse on a map, but in reality, it is a gateway to resources, to security, and to the future balance of power. Trump may no longer be in office, but the forces that drove his obsession remain firmly in place. The ice will continue to melt. Rival powers will continue to push north, and Europe will continue to worry, not just about Greenland, but about what comes next. Because once the rules begin to bend, they rarely return to their original shape. And in that world, no border ever feels entirely permanent.